Morbius, Minions 2, postmodern meme culture turned corporate strategy, and the new baby steps towards perfecting the plan. Now, you might not think that a D-plus vampire movie and a franchise about talking yellow potatoes could dictate the future of the film industry, but it's been a rough few years for theaters, and this new trend of post-ironic consumption might be the vampire blood that brings it back from the grave. And it's not a coincidence that the response to these movies are so similar and have happened so close to one another. Like, there's clearly a pattern being set up here, but by whom? And what's next? So let's go over the history of these memes and try to figure out where it's headed next, in this video that I am titling Morbius Meets Minions, the man-made movie media marketing machine. I'll change that later. I spent 4.5 years at a film school trying to become part of the entertainment industry, but it broke my love of production so bad that I had to create a YouTube channel just so my editing skills wouldn't go to waste. I talk about movies in my commentary videos, and I co-run a podcast discussing what I watch, but that industry chewed me up like gum, and I don't really want to be a part of it. Ever. But one of the more valuable things I learned there was how films are marketed, how trailers are specifically edited, how press interviews influence audiences, and basically how selling the movie can sometimes be the most uphill part of the entire process. And with that in mind, let's take a look at the very interesting marketing of one of the year's biggest movies until it wasn't. Morbius. We begin with Sony, and how they were a little bit jealous of the Marvel movie franchise just printing free money with its movies, and because they still owned the copyrights to Spider-Man, they decided to start making their own cinematic universe featuring some of his villains. They've made 2 of the gay alien movies, they're working on movies for the psychic spider mutant and the superpowered wrestler, and of course, there's the man of the hour, Morbius. For people unaware, this is not some highly anticipated character fans were dying to see. It was an underwhelming cut-and-paste 70s comic vampire villain. Nobody asked for this, so when it was announced, nobody was interested. To a lot of people, this sounded like a flop in the making. They even cast the difficult actor / actual cult leader Jared Leto as the lead, and the press tours were so surreal that it didn't take a genius to predict this movie would tank. Even the studio seemed to give up on the movie halfway through marketing it, and after delays, they released it in theaters on April 1st. April 1st. It didn't take a lot to know that the stakes were not very high. Stakes. Vampires. Please like and subscribe. I spent 30 minutes writing that joke. But something changed after Morbius was finally out. According to KnowYourMeme.com, after reviews panned it, sites like Reddit and Twitter began praising the movie ironically, making a joke about how obvious it was that this movie was bombing. They edited the review score to give it a 112 out of 100, and the hashtag Morbius sweep trended pretty often. And after one person came up with "it's Morbin time" as a fake line they said he says in the movie, the joke exploded into the main spotlight. For a few months, everyone was talking about Morbius into oblivion, resulting in the film having a much larger cultural impact than if it had just come out and been ignored. Even amidst all the hype, I didn't go and see Morbius in theaters when it was out, mostly because I was still avoiding theaters at the time, but also because I could tell the movie was not as fun as the memes made it look. I actually got around to finally watching it a few days before filming this, and it was bad. Wasn't hilariously bad, but, it was just not a very well-made movie. I don't know. Eventually, Sony caught onto the meme trend and re-released Morbius in theaters to take advantage of the cultural moment. And they made Jared change out of his robes to act out a short skit where he reads a fake script for a sequel, capitalizing on the joke.
What are you reading?
Nothing really, just,
What are you reading?
And it was about then that we could pronounce the meme dead in the water. Like, there is nothing that kills a joke more than corporate acknowledgement. The best part is, nobody attended round 2 of Morbius, causing the film to bomb twice. But after that fitting conclusion, the Morbius meme died down and now lives on as a fond memory of when meme culture united to laugh at a lazy movie. However, there are signs that what happened with Morbius was not an isolated incident, and history appears to be repeating itself, and this time it might not be free of corporate influence. So, let's get on with it and talk about some Minions. The animated movie Despicable Me came out in 2010. It's a kid's film about a supervillain who had an army of these babbling yellow minions. Universal Studios had a pretty clear intention with what they were doing with the minions. They were meant to entertain the kids with their kooky antics, and also to market the stuffing out of them. Gotta eat your greens, I guess. The initial reaction to the Minions from anyone over the movie's demographic was, to put it mildly, annoyance. These guys were suddenly everywhere and you couldn't escape them. And the loud fart jokes and saying banana constantly must have worn down the parents in the audience.
I'm trying to avoid any sort of contact with my eyes with this thing, but it's so bright and yellow.
But if people see something around them enough, they'll start to accept it, and soon we saw those parents posting Facebook-era memes with minions on them to just add to the quirkiness. And then in response, kids started making parodies of those memes, and it subsequently led to cementing minions as a concept as a vehicle for ironic humor. And so the gears of destiny slowly began to turn. Over the next decade, the franchise continued with a Despicable Me 2 and 3, and a spin-off solely featuring the Minions, and kids ate it up. Did I say Minions? Minions. And this year, in 2022, the second Minion spin-off, The Rise of Gru, was set to come out and get its usual mountain of money, but something shifted, and now here we are. The first marketing move that they deployed was announcing that the film's soundtrack would be curated by the producer Jack Antonoff, who immediately hired his usual group of Phoebe Bridgers and other artists who make emotional, sad songs for damaged people. But the soundtrack also included people such as Thundercat, Brockhampton, Kali Uchis, and other contemporary artists who have fan bases who are a little bit older than the typical demographic you'd expect from a Despicable Me movie. So now the conversation around Minions 2 was more so directed at adolescents, and if there's anything online adolescents are going to do, it's meme the shit out of something. It did not take long for people to inject that familiar language of post-ironic Gen Z meme humor that we saw with Morbius into Minions 2. In fact, there are so many Minions meme trends going on right now that it's actually almost impossible to keep track of them all, but here are the big ones. People are dressing up in suits or fancy attire and referring to themselves as gentle minions as they go out to see the movie in theaters, treating it like a special occasion. It's actually very fun to see friend groups go out and have a good time like this. I love this meme. A+, I like it. And like we saw with Morbius, people are leaving excessively positive reviews of this movie, giving it a 10 out of 10 and inflating its numbers, albeit satirically. Some people are using their Bitmojis on Snapchat to create a minion army, and TikTok users in the comments are playing up the minion cult joke alongside it. And you know what? I think it's fun to see people working together to joke about this kind of thing, right? Like, it can be isolating online sometimes to see everyone come together and these jokes. I like it. I think it's good. However, those are not the only Minions 2 trends that are happening right now, and unfortunately, these ones are not as harmless as the previous ones or even the Morbius memes. There are numerous videos on TikTok that show these teens in suits moshing or screaming inside the theater. Multiple videos show cop cars having to disperse the crowds, and we can see a lot of the teens in suits crowd that once seemed wholesome taking the meme too far and losing control in these showings.
And now they're fighting. And now they're literally fighting because this one dumbass little 12-year-old boy can't shut the fuck up.
They're literally fucking 15 and they're drunk as shit, throwing, I literally got hit with slushy and popcorn.
I have slushy in my hair.
You could argue that this is funny, or that the joke of overreacting to a kid's movie is just comical objectively, but I think there's a pretty important difference between reacting this way with your friends watching it at home versus going to a public theater and having families and their kids potentially being caught in the crossfire. Another trend I've seen on Twitter are these viral posts that use wordplay to make fun of the Minions title. It's kind of funny, but goddamn, there's a lot of them. There are also some very charged posts about the Minions. I don't know where these came from or what the joke is even, but there's too many of them to be a coincidence. And of course, there's a few people who are trying to politicize the Minions sweep as if it's backlash against the woke left and are saying epic fail unironically, and that's where I draw my media analysis line. You're done. Go to your room. It is very interesting to me that people seem to pick up where the Morbius meme left off and then took it too far. It's almost like it's similar, but it's evolving in a bad way. It's gone beyond online irony or poking fun at the corporation who's made it, and it's now gone to public harassment. Something happened here. Okay, so we have these two meme movies where the public reaction to them is fueled on this ironic consumption joke. But clearly there are some differences in the execution, so let's look at some similarities and differences. The Morbius memes had no history, nothing to build off of, as the character lived in irrelevancy. It appeared out of nowhere, so I think it was easy for people to make fun of it, but still be able to drop it when the time came. The jokes reviewing it were mostly online, and apart from a few people who went to the theaters for pictures, I doubt the movie financially thrived from it, seeing as they attempted to extend its stay in theaters to increase its revenue. The Minions, however, have been around in meme format since 2010. They are instantly recognizable, and after Morbius paved the way for this type of joke, it makes sense why this was the next one to take off. Ironic consumption relies on it being self-aware, and subconsciously there's this unspoken rule of like, yeah, we all know that these movies aren't bangers, but it's really funny to like pretend they are. Sony trying to be hip with the trend and failing is funny. It adds to the joke. But Universal isn't waiting or trying to make up a response. They're keeping up with this trend, and in fact, they're egging it on. Their official accounts are liking posts, retweeting the in-jokes, and they lean into it because why wouldn't they? The Morbius marketing team reacted to the meme too late, and it made them look bad. But the Minions marketing team are right on time to take advantage of the trend that's happening, and they're not hiding it. And obviously, I want movie theaters to stick around. I like them. So seeing people physically go to the theater as part of the trend, I think is good. It's good that ticket sales are up. But God, at what cost? We can pretend that the story starts and ends with these friend groups showing up in suits and walking in orderly lines, but after seeing the footage of people throwing food or raving around children or leaving incomprehensible messes for other people to clean up, like the minimum wage earning retail service workers to pick up after them, I can't pretend like the trend is funny knowing that shit happens behind the scenes. But Universal Pictures doesn't care, or the theater higher-ups don't care. And at this point, I'm starting to believe that those little yellow pill goblins don't really care about any of this at all. I will admit, when the Morbius memes started happening, I immediately got nervous. Whenever a movie is slated to come out and then there's a weird trend that's trying to insert it into the conversation that seemingly comes out of nowhere, I get suspicious, and I suspect that foul play is involved. I was worried that the Morbius movie was going to make a lot of money from this and would lead to sequels or more movies that talk in the corporate brand speak of like, oh, we're self-aware and we're cringe, so come along and make memes of us. That's why I was happy to see the jokes stay online when the movie was re-released, so Sony couldn't bank off of it. I think I would have been a little crushed if it had. And I'm not trying to imply that there's something shady going on and the Minions trend is being orchestrated by a marketing team that studied what happened to Morbius and is now trying to build off of that with multiple trend streams that all take advantage of different audience groups and market them all towards one product. But I'm not saying it. Why wouldn't a rival production company try to build off another one's failure? That's business. And honestly, if we all learned tomorrow that the marketing team behind Minions was to blame for all of these different streams of memes that came out of nowhere, would you really be surprised? But to some degree, it's not productive to even try and figure that out because I don't think we'll ever know the truth unless we find that marketing team and beat it out of them. But seriously, whether an executive gave this whole thing a green light or if this is just the natural evolution of how we all discuss and communicate via memes doesn't really matter because we're here and we got to deal with it. Besides, I'm not being paid enough to research all that. That's heavy stuff. So instead, let's end this with a prediction on where we think this is all going to go. Like I said, I like movie theaters. Not when the experience is like this, though. But more importantly, the entertainment industry likes movie theaters, and it's in their best interest to keep them around. Obviously, the recent rise of streaming services took advantage of everyone being stuck in their homes, but now that people are out plaguing it up in public again, they know that it's time to shift gears and point people back towards theaters. Even if Universal didn't use Morbius as a blueprint and did not orchestrate all of this, somebody will. We've seen this movie financially benefit from this crazy push, and the chum is in the water, and the sharks are going to start circling, and we're going to see someone try to recreate this eventually. More studios might try to embrace the ironic consumption angle and market their movies towards TikTok, Twitter, and Reddit audiences. This won't work for every movie, obviously, but if it's one in the same vein as Morbius or Minions, it's in their best interest to at least try and maximize what they'll get. And if any of you think that the studio wouldn't want to encourage this because of the negative reception of what's happening inside those theaters, they don't care. Because the wholesome suits thing is talked about more. And honestly, movie theaters and most corporations would stab you in the back if it meant they got to turn a profit. Like, we don't mean very much to them. Again, I am all for the wholesome or harmless sides of these trends, but it's the weird and harmful shit that I think is giving us all a bad name, and it's making it easier for us to be controlled by corporations, and god damn it, I hate corporations. I was floored at the unity that everyone showed when we all did not go see Morbius when it was re-released. Like, again, I was worried it was going to make a lot of money, and I was genuinely surprised that we all were able to come together and let it flop again. That showed comprehension and defiance towards someone trying to take advantage of the naturally evolving meme culture that we all live in, whether we like it or not. Is there a way that we can replicate that here? I don't know. It's kind of too late. There can't be a re-release of Minions 2 since this hype train was building up before it even came out. I don't think there's a simple answer here, but I think obviously condemning the behavior that we see in the theaters is good, but opposed from that, I think the most important thing that we can do is keep connecting it to Morbius. If we don't lose sight of highlighting the communal online humor and minimizing the emphasis on property damage, we can hopefully also maintain that priceless element of not giving the corporations excess money. And again, acting rowdy to a kid's movie could be funny, but let's encourage people to do that, but once it's out digitally in their own homes. It's fine to let Minions 2 make money, but let's have it make its projected earnings from the audience it has. Don't show up in suits and throw your popcorn around at the kids there and give Universal more money. Maybe none of this matters, and these two movies will just be a footnote on one of those memes of 22 timelines, and that'll be it, but I know how money hungry this industry is, and this is a pattern I'm sure will stick, and I want us to be ready for whatever they throw at us next. To summarize, let's not ignore the trashy behavior that's happening in those theaters, and when someone brings up the Minions 2 trend, maybe connect it to Morbius. This is all funny stuff, objectively, but only if we make sure that something as simple as memes doesn't turn into yet another way a corporation can take control in our lives. When I told my brother I was making a video on this, he thought I meant Minions versus Morbius, and he started asking me how many minions do I think Morbius could take in a fight? So that's the question. He wanted me to include this bit, so how many? I mean, no items, no weapons, I'm assuming, so I would guess 50, right? He has vampire powers, so they all work together and coordinate an attack. I think about 50 could take him, but I don't know. I'm so tired of saying Minions and Morbius that I think I'm just gonna phone it in. Good night, everybody. Love you. Bye. Thank you for watching my video. I appreciate the support. If you'd like to like the video or subscribe if you haven't already, I would appreciate that. I worked hard on it, kinda, but either way, I appreciate the support. If you would like to see more of me, I have my Twitter and Instagram linked below, as well as my Patreon if you would like to support me. And speaking of, thank you to the beautiful patrons for chucking me some money. I really appreciate it. You're helping keep the channel, that was a mosquito. You're helping to keep the channel alive, and that means the world to me, so thank you, truly. And I think that's all I have to say, so thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next week with a new video, if I can ever get off this island.